My husband Ronald, 31M, and I, 29F, have been married for 5 years. We met during our sophomore year of college at a mutual friends party. I was immediately drawn to his infectious laugh and the way he could light up a room. Ronald was studying computer science while I was pursuing nursing. Despite our different majors, we hit it off instantly. Our early relationship was a whirlwind of late-night study sessions, weekend road trips, and dreams of our future together. Ronald was my first serious boyfriend, and I thought I'd hit the jackpot. He was attentive, ambitious, and seemed to adore me. We dated for 2 years before he proposed on a sunset hike. It was like something out of a movie. After graduation, we both landed jobs in the same city. I started working as a nurse at the local hospital, while Ronald got a position at a promising tech startup. We were young and in love, ready to take on the world together. We had a small wedding surrounded by family and friends, and I truly believed we were starting our happily ever after. The first few years of marriage were good, if not perfect. Ronald's job was demanding, with long hours and high stress. I often felt lonely, especially during night shifts when I'd come home to an empty apartment. But I told myself it was just a phase. We were building our careers and saving for our future. Things started to change about a year ago. Ronald's startup went through a round of layoffs and he lost his job. He was devastated. I'd never seen him so down before. Ronald had always tied a lot of his self-worth to his career, and suddenly he felt lost. I tried to be supportive. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital to cover our expenses. I encouraged Ronald to take some time to figure out what he really wanted to do next. But as weeks turned into months with no job prospects, Ronald became increasingly withdrawn and irritable. Our arguments, once rare, became more frequent. Ronald would snap at me over little things, then apologize profusely. He started spending more time gaming or out with friends, leaving me to handle all the household chores. I felt like I was walking on eggshells in my own home. Despite the tension, I never suspected infidelity. Ronald had always been vocal about how much he despised cheaters. His own father had abandoned his family for another woman when Ronald was young, and he'd vowed never to do the same. That's why I didn't think twice when my cousin Emily, 24F, asked to stay with us for a week. Emily and I grew up together. She's 5 years younger than me, but we were always close. I used to babysit her as a kid, and we remained tight even after I left for college. Emily had just graduated and was job hunting in our city. I was happy to help her out, and Ronald seemed supportive too. The week Emily stayed with us was actually nice. It felt good to have someone to talk to in the evenings, and her enthusiasm about starting her career was infectious. Ronald even seemed to perk up a bit, offering to show Emily around town and introduce her to some contacts in the tech world. After Emily left, things went back to our tense new normal. Ronald started going on more frequent interviews that never seemed to pan out. He was constantly on his phone, being secretive. A nagging voice in my head said something was off, but I pushed it aside. I didn't want to be the paranoid, nagging wife. Everything came crashing down last month. Ronald had left his phone on the coffee table while he showered. A text notification popped up from Emily. Just her name and a heart emoji. Something in my gut twisted. Before I could talk myself out of it, I opened his phone. What I found made me physically ill. Hundreds of texts between Ronald and Emily going back months. Flirty messages, explicit photos, plans to meet up. It was clear they'd been having an affair since before Emily even came to stay with us. I sat there, numb as I scrolled through message after message. Ronald talking about how unhappy he was in our marriage. Emily saying she'd always had a crush on him. Plans they'd made for a future together. Each word felt like a knife in my chest. I don't know how long I sat there before Ronald came out of the shower. He must have seen something in my face because he immediately asked what was wrong. I couldn't even speak. I just handed him the phone, opened to his messages with Emily. Ronald's face went pale. He started stammering excuses. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. He'd been depressed about losing his job. I couldn't bear to hear it. I grabbed my keys and drove to a friend's house, leaving Ronald calling after me. The next few days passed in a blur. I called out of work, claiming a family emergency. I alternated between crying and feeling numb. How could Ronald do this to me? How could Emily betray me like this? I'd supported Ronald through job loss, loved him through his mood swings and withdrawal, and this was how he repaid me? As the shock wore off, anger set in. I'd given Ronald everything, and he'd thrown it away for my younger cousin. I started to feel like a fool. How many times had he been with her while I worked extra shifts to support us? How long had they been laughing at me behind my back? I knew. I needed to end the marriage, but a part of me wanted revenge first. I wanted Ronald to hurt like I was hurting. It wasn't healthy, but I couldn't help it. I spent a week planning. I emptied our joint savings account. Most of it was my money anyway, since Ronald had been unemployed for months. I consulted a divorce lawyer, and I planned one final date night for Ronald. When Ronald came home that night, I had the house decorated with candles. I'd cooked his favorite meal and was dressed up like we were going out. He seemed confused but pleased, probably thinking I was going to forgive him. We ate dinner, making small talk like nothing was wrong. For dessert, I served Ronald a slice of his favorite chocolate cake. What he didn't know was that I'd laced it with a strong laxative. As soon as Ronald finished eating, I confronted him. I told him I knew everything about the affair with Emily. I showed him the screenshots I'd taken of their texts. His face went pale and he started stammering excuses again. But before he could say much, the laxatives kicked in. Ronald ran to the bathroom and was stuck there for hours. While he was indisposed, I packed my bags and left. I texted him photos of the divorce papers and blocked his number. It's been 2 weeks now. I'm staying with a friend and trying to process everything. Part of me feels satisfied with my revenge, but another part feels guilty. Did I go too far? Should I have just confronted him normally? I'm also struggling with feelings of betrayal from Emily. We were so close growing up. I have memories of braiding her hair before school, helping her get ready for her first date, celebrating when she got into college. I can't believe she'd do this to me. I keep wondering if there were signs I missed. Ronald has been trying to contact me through mutual friends. He claims he's sorry and it was a mistake. Emily sent me a long email apologizing and begging for forgiveness. I haven't responded to either of them. I know I need to move forward with the divorce, but I'm feeling lost and conflicted. My whole future that I'd planned with Ronald has evaporated. I'm not sure who I am without him, as pathetic as that sounds. Any advice on how to handle this mess would be appreciated. Update. 1. It's been about a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. Thank you all for your support and advice. It really helped me through some dark days. I decided to go through with the divorce. Ronald tried to contest it at first, claiming I'd poisoned him with the laxatives. But once I showed my lawyer the evidence of his affair, he quickly backed down. We're in the process of dividing assets now. The hardest part has been dealing with family fallout. My parents were furious when they found out what Emily had done. They've always doted on her as the baby of the family, so this hit them hard. I remember when Emily was born. I was 5 years old and so excited to have a baby cousin. My aunt let me hold her in the hospital, and I felt so grown up. As we got older, Emily would follow me around like a shadow whenever our families got together. I taught her how to ride a bike, helped her with her homework, gave her advice about boys. I really thought of her as a little sister. That's why her betrayal hurts almost as much as Ronald's. How many times had Emily listened to me gush about Ronald, knowing she was sleeping with him behind my back? How many family dinners had we all sat through, pretending everything was normal? My aunt, Emily's mom, actually tried to defend her at first, saying she was young and made a mistake. That caused a huge fight between her and my mom. Now the whole extended family is taking sides. Last week, my grandparents' 50th anniversary dinner turned into a screaming match. I feel guilty for causing so much drama, even though I know it's not really my fault. Emily keeps trying to contact me to apologize. She sent flowers to my work, which I threw away. She even showed up at my friend's apartment where I'm staying, but I refuse to see her. Part of me wants to hear her out, to understand how she could do this to me, but I'm not ready to face her yet. I did end up meeting with Emily once, at my parents' urging. They thought it would help bring closure. It was a disaster. Emily cried the whole time, saying she never meant to hurt me and she'd fallen in love with Ronald. I just felt angry and numb. Emily revealed that the affair had been going on for almost a year. It started when Ronald confided in her about losing his job. Apparently, they ran into each other at a coffee shop, and Ronald opened up about how depressed he was. Emily said she was just trying to be a supportive friend at first, but things escalated quickly. She claimed she tried to end it multiple times, but kept getting drawn back in. Ronald had promised to leave me for her, saying he'd fallen out of love with me years ago. Hearing that felt like a punch to the gut. Had our whole marriage been a lie? Learning all the details just made me feel worse. I can't stop replaying moments in my head, wondering how I missed the signs for so long. Every memory of the three of us together now feels tainted. Family vacations, holiday dinners, even my own wedding day. Emily was there for all of it? How long had she been harboring feelings for Ronald? The one bright spot is that I've reconnected with some old friends who've been incredibly supportive. My college roommate Sarah has been especially great. We drifted apart after graduation. I was busy with Ronald and my nursing career, while Sarah moved across the country for law school. But as soon as she heard what happened, she called and we talked for hours like no time had passed. Sarah went through a bad divorce herself a few years ago and really gets what I'm going through. She's been a lifeline, always available to talk or distract me when I'm spiraling. It's made me realize how much I let my friendships slide during my marriage. I was so focused on being a good wife that I neglected other relationships. Sarah convinced me to get back into some old hobbies I'd let slide during my marriage. I used to love painting in college, but gave it up when life got busy. Now I've started taking a weekly art class at the community center. It feels good to create something again, to focus on something other than my pain for a few hours. I've also joined a local hiking group. Ronald was never outdoorsy, so I'd stopped going on the long hikes I used to love. Now I'm rediscovering my passion for nature. Last weekend, I did a challenging 10-mile trail and felt so accomplished when I reached the summit. It was a reminder that I'm stronger than I think. Work has been a welcome distraction too. I picked up some extra shifts to keep busy and save money for my new life. My coworkers have been understanding and supportive. A few of them went through divorces themselves and have offered good advice. I'm grateful to have a career I love to focus on right now. I'm still staying at my friend's place, but starting to look for my own apartment. It feels strange to be apartment hunting alone after so many years of building a home with Ronald, but it's also exciting in a way. I'm looking forward to decorating a space that's just for me, filled with things I love. Ronald still tries to contact me occasionally. He left a long voicemail the other day about how sorry he is and how he made the biggest mistake of his life. He said the affair with Emily meant nothing, that he was just depressed and made a stupid choice. Part of me wanted to call him back, the part that still loves the man I thought he was. But I stayed strong and deleted it. I can't go back, not after everything that's happened. I'm trying to focus on myself and healing right now. Some days are better than others. I still have moments of intense anger or sadness. Sometimes. I wake up and for a split second forget everything that's happened, only to have it all come crashing back. But I'm slowly starting to imagine a future without Ronald or Emily in it. It's scary, but also freeing in a way. Thank you all again for your support. It means more than you know to have a place to vent and get advice. I'll update again when there are major developments. Update 2. It's been about 3 months since my last update. Things have settled into a new normal, though there have been some unexpected twists. The divorce was finalized last week. It was surreal sitting in the courtroom and hearing the judge declare my marriage over. Ronald showed up looking rough. He's lost weight and seemed really stressed. For a moment I felt a pang of sympathy, but then I remembered everything he'd done. Financially, the split was pretty straightforward since we didn't have many assets. I kept my car and most of the furniture. Ronald got to keep his gaming systems and collectibles. We sold the house and split the proceeds. It was hard saying goodbye to the home we'd built together, but it also felt cathartic. Too many bad memories there now. The biggest surprise came when dividing our finances. It turns out Ronald had a secret credit card I didn't know about. He'd racked up over $20,000 in debt, mostly on hotels and gifts for Emily. I was furious, but also relieved that I'm not responsible for paying it off. It was just another betrayal to add to the list. Emily is still trying to make amends. She sent me a long handwritten letter detailing every interaction she'd had with Ronald and apologizing profusely. Reading it was like reopening a wound. I burned the letter and blocked her email address. Maybe someday I'll be ready to hear her out. But not now. My relationship with my extended family is still strained. My aunt, Emily's mom, cornered me at a family wedding last month. She begged me to forgive Emily, saying she's depressed and lost her job over the scandal. I told her that's not my problem anymore. I feel bad for being cold, but I'm just not ready to let Emily back into my life. The wedding itself was awkward. It was my cousin on my dad's side getting married, so Emily wasn't there. But everyone was whispering and giving me pitying looks. I almost didn't go, but I'm glad I did. It was good to see family and try to reclaim some normalcy. On a more positive note, I've been spending a lot of time with my friend Sarah. We've gotten really close over the past few months. She's been an amazing support system through all of this. We've fallen into a routine of weekly movie nights and long talks over wine. Last week, Sarah confessed that she has feelings for me. I was shocked at first. I've never been with a woman before. But the more I think about it, the more I realize I might feel the same way. There's always been a spark between us, even back in college. I just never let myself explore it. We're taking things very slowly and seeing where it goes. We've only kissed a couple of times, but it felt right in a way I can't explain. Sarah is so different from Ronald. She's considerate, honest, and really listens to me. She makes me feel safe and valued. I'm not sure how to label my sexuality now. Am I bi? Just Sarah, sexual? It's all very confusing, but also exciting. I'm trying not to overthink it and just enjoy exploring this new side of myself. Sarah has been incredibly patient and understanding about my hesitation. Work is going well. I got a promotion to charge nurse, which comes with a nice pay bump. It feels good to be recognized for my hard work, especially after feeling so worthless during the end of my marriage. I'm using the extra money to travel a bit. I just got back from a solo trip to Costa Rica, which was amazing and empowering. The trip was a big step for me. Ronald and I always talked about traveling, but never made it happen. I realized I don't have to put my dreams on hold anymore. I hiked through rainforests, went ziplining, and spent lazy days on the beach. It was the first time in months that I felt truly happy and at peace. I still have moments of sadness or anger about everything that happened. The other day, I found an old photo album from college and broke down crying. But overall, I'm starting to feel hopeful about the future again. Life has taken some unexpected turns, but I'm trying to embrace the journey. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and a year since I discovered Ronald's affair. So much has changed, and I barely recognize my life from a year ago. Sarah and I are officially dating now. It was awkward at first, navigating a relationship with my best friend. But it's been wonderful, too. She understands me in a way Ronald never did. We can talk for hours about everything and nothing, or just sit in comfortable silence. I never realized how much I was holding back in my marriage until I experienced this level of openness and trust. We moved in together last month. Some people think we're moving too fast, but it feels right. Sarah is patient with me on the days when I'm still processing my divorce, and she makes me laugh like no one else. We've settled into a nice routine. Morning runs together, cooking dinner while dancing around the kitchen, lazy Sundays reading in bed. Ronald reached out again recently. He's engaged to someone new already, a woman he met at his new job. Part of me was hurt that he moved on so quickly. But mostly I just feel relieved that it's not my problem anymore. I hope he's grown and won't make the same mistakes, but I'm not invested in his life anymore. Emily is still persona non grata in the family. She moved across the country for a fresh start. My mom says she's in therapy and trying to turn her life around. I wish her well, but I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive her completely. The betrayal cut too deep. Last week was Thanksgiving, the first major holiday since everything happened. It was strange not having Emily there. She always used to help me in the kitchen. But it was also a relief not to deal with the tension. My parents hosted a smaller gathering this year, just immediate family. It was actually nice. We played board games and shared funny stories from past holidays. I've done a lot of reflection on my marriage to Ronald. Looking back, there were red flags I ignored. He could be selfish and dismissive of my feelings. I think I was so invested in the idea of our perfect relationship that I overlooked the cracks. I stayed even when I was unhappy because I thought that's what a good wife did. My relationship with Sarah is so different. We communicate openly about everything. She encourages me to pursue my own interests and supports my career. I feel like an equal partner, not someone's support system. It's not perfect, we still have disagreements, but we work through them together. Work continues to go well. I'm thinking about going back to school for my master's in nursing. It's something I always wanted to do, but put off for Ronald's career. Sarah is incredibly supportive of the idea. It feels good to be dreaming about my future again. I still have moments of sadness about everything that happened. The other day, I came across Ronald's old sweatshirt in a box and got teary-eyed remembering good times. But those moments are getting fewer and farther between. I'm not glad that Ronald cheated, but in a way, I'm grateful for where it led me. I've discovered so much about myself this past year. I'm stronger and more independent than I ever realized. I know now that I deserve a partner who truly values and respects me. Life isn't perfect. I still have trust issues to work through, and navigating a same-sex relationship has its challenges. But for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. I can't wait to see where this new chapter leads.